Okay, so I'm going to show you how to first save your images as JPEGs that are sized for the web. So I'm here in Bridge. I just did Control Alt to capture all of these images at one time. Then I go up here to Tools and to Photoshop and then Image Processor. Then it pulls up, I gotta pull it onto my screen here. It pulls up this little box and it'll say process files from Bridge only, and it has 49 images. Excuse me. I'm going to save them in the same location, or you can save them to a specific folder wherever you want. I just save them in the same location. Next is the file type. I always save them as JPEGs. Usually 8 quality is plenty big enough for the web. And then I do resize to fit. And then I do 2048 pixels width, 2040 pixels height. And so no matter whether it's portrait or landscape, it will save the long side, whichever is 2040 by 8, and then whatever ratio that comes out to be. And then down here, I can tell it to run an action. So I usually pick one that's specifically for the web. And I think this action is from Paint the Moon. It's just their sharpen and resize for the web specifically. And then I tell it to run. So it's going to run these, and it will take a few minutes. So I'm going to pause this, and then I'll come back. So now here we are. It has created this folder called JPEG, and inside this folder are just a few of the images that I decided to go ahead and save. As you can see, they're still labeled with whatever came from my camera. So now I want to take these images and rename them to where they're SEO friendly. So that's where we go to Tools and Batch Rename. And then you can say rename in the same folder. And then you have several options down here. So you can start with text. And so like for this specific one, I usually try to do SEO according to like where they live or where my studio might be, or if it was a specific theme. So for this one, I am going to label it, I want to say they live in, where do they live? For simplicity purposes, I'll just do Flower Mound. Flower Mound dash newborn boy session vintage airplane studio Old Town Louisville. And then I always put a dash at the end because I want to separate my number here so you know exactly how many images there are. Right now there are 15, so I'm going to start my sequence number at 1. And then you can tell it to have 2 digits. If you've got over 100, you're going to do 3. If you have over 1,000, you'll do 4. And you can do different types of file names. So like if I wanted to do like all of them, say Flower Mound, I could do Flower Mound and then put all the newborn stuff in the second one. So you can add as many as you need if you know you're going to be naming all of your images the same thing. So what I would suggest is say, you know, put like the city first, and then you can add newborn photographer, or you can have wedding photographer or whatever, and then your sequence number, and it automatically names them at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to rename. And you'll see it takes like seconds to do. But I would caution, I have made the mistake of doing upwards of 100 images, and in the past it sometimes gets bogged down and it feels like it's not doing anything, and then you're like, okay, is it renaming them or not? And in that case, sometimes I quit out of it and I realize that it messed up my numbers. So I do maybe 15 or 20 at a time, and then when you do it again, say if I had another 15 and say these were the next 15 I did, and I pulled up the same thing again, it's going to pick up automatically with the next number in line. So that's the reason why I do them in like small batches of images. That way it doesn't bog my computer down. So that's the basics on how to rename your images quickly. It makes for great SEO, and when you're doing your SEO for your images, when people go to look you up, say they're looking up flower mound newborn photographer. There I am. And they look at images because they want to see what you do. Here are my images because I used SEO. Let's see. That one's mine. That's a very old one. There's one, but you get the gist. There's another one that's recent. But it helps for people to find your images relatively quickly because they're wanting to see your work if they don't want to visit your site. So just a really good FYI and a tip for today.